The center has notified new guidelines for job reservation and domicile in Ladakh, and this comes after a series of demands, growing local demands ever since 2019 after the abrogation of Article 370. Hello and welcome to Drishti IAS. My name is 𝐈𝐀𝐒 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐬 and today we will understand what this news is all about and how is this important for our examination. So this topic is important for GS paper 2 of polity and governance, and what has happened is that the Ministry of Home Affairs has notified some new rules for domicile and job reservation in Ladakh. So now 85% of government jobs in Ladakh will be reserved for local Ladakhi residents, and 1/3 seats in Ladakh Autonomous Hill Development Councils will be reserved for women to take care of the gender representation, and the domicile criteria has also been changed. So for a person to be considered a resident of Ladakh, he or she should have been staying there for at least 15 years or should have been studying there for 7 years and appeared in either class 10th or class 12th examination. So these are the rules that have been notified. Now what was the need for this? So the need was that they needed to take care of the growing unemployment rate in Ladakh. So the current unemployment rate in Ladakh is somewhere around 22% and the national unemployment rate is around 5%. Now look at the disparity here. The national unemployment rate is 5%, Ladakh's unemployment rate is 22%. Hence there was this immediate need to take care of the unemployment in the place and have reservations in jobs so that the youth of Ladakh does not stay unemployed. Then we needed to fix the gender representation also. Unfortunately, even in the administrative setup of Ladakh, there is a lot of gender underrepresentation. Women are not adequately represented. That is the reason the government has now given 1/3 reservation to women in these development councils. Culture preservation. Now people in Ladakh will be working in Ladakh. Not a lot of outsiders are going to be working there, because there is 85% job reservation over and above the 10% job reservation for economically weaker sections. So the culture is naturally going to be preserved and economic empowerment is automatically going to be there, because the youth in Ladakh will now no longer be unemployed. Once they are employed, they will be able to take care of their socio-economic conditions. They will be able to improve it, and in turn they will move towards economic empowerment. Along with these positive implementations, there are some potential challenges in the implementation of the policy, and they are limited private sector growth. So this reservation is for government jobs and not a lot of scope is there for private sector growth in the region due to a lot of constraints, fund constraints, developmental constraints, infrastructure constraints, and these private sector jobs are not going to give that much reservation to the local people. So they might not be welcomed in the region. There are limited private sector growth options. Infrastructure constraints are also there because the terrain is hilly. Not a lot of people might really be interested in investing that region. Private players might not be interested because there are some limitations that this region is very heavily dependent on seasonal tourism. So other than tourism, the other sectors might not feel that motivated to invest in the infrastructure, to set up their industries or their companies and start employing people. So there are infrastructure constraints. Then there is skill mismatch. So we're giving reservation to people, but how can we make sure that they are ready for the jobs that we are offering them? So there could be a potential skill mismatch. The first step here needs to be of skill development of the youth of Ladakh so that they're ready for the jobs that they're about to enter. And administrative hurdles are always going to be there. There will be project delays, there will be fund disbursement delays, documentation hurdles. So administrative hurdles are going to be there, but these are some things to take care of. And once we take care of these challenges, the implications of the policy are very good. Now, what was the need to have these special reservations, domicile reservations or job reservations for Ladakh? For that, we need to go back to the historical context of it. So from 1947, ever since India's independence, to 2019, Ladakh was in a different state, and after 2019, Ladakh is in a different state. So 1947 to 2019, Ladakh was a part of Jammu Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir was a state and Ladakh was a part of it. This enjoyed special status under Article 370. So before 370 was a different era, after 370 is a different era. After 2019, once the article was abrogated, Jammu Kashmir lost its statehood and two UTs were created, Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh. So Ladakh is a union territory without legislative assembly, which means it is different from the union territories of Delhi and Puducherry, which have a legislative assembly. This does not have a legislative assembly and it is directly controlled by the center. So this is the historical part of it, and this Ladakh has approximately 97% tribal population. So it is very distinct in its cultural, in its social approach, and that is the reason that we needed to be very mindful of reservations of domicile in Ladakh. To save it from encroachment from outside, we had to get in some better policies, custom policies for the region. So these policies or these guidelines were introduced to take care of this. Now Ladakh, as I mentioned, has 97% of scheduled tribe population, and because of this there is one demand that has always been prevalent ever since 2019, which is the demand for statehood and inclusion in 6th schedule. Statehood and inclusion in 6th schedule. So the Leh Apex Body and Kargil Democratic Alliance, these are two political parties. They have also been advocating for the inclusion in 6th schedule, and the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes also recommended in 2016 that Ladakh should be included in the 6th schedule. So these are some demands that have been there in place, but we need to understand that what is the need, what was the need for these demands to be there? Why should Ladakh be a state, a full-fledged state, or why should it be included in the 6th schedule? For this, we need to understand what the 6th schedule is. So the 6th schedule is covered under Article 244, Part 10 of the Constitution, and this was recommended by a committee which is known as the Bardoloi Committee. So the Bardoloi Committee recommended that you should have some states, northeastern states specifically, that you should have some northeastern states put specifically under 6th schedule. So there are right now 4 northeastern states, which are Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram. So it is ATM with a double M. So these are the 4th northeastern states that have been included under Schedule 6. Now what are the benefits that these states are getting? So these states have autonomous district councils. Autonomous district councils are the councils that work in an autonomous manner, in an independent manner, to take care of the tribal population that exists in those northeastern states. So they have these autonomous district councils, and these autonomous district councils enjoy some very special benefits. What are the special benefits? They can make laws on land use, forest management, inheritance of property, marriage, divorce, customs, etc. Make laws meaning they have legislative powers, customary laws, land use laws, forest management laws. All these laws can be made by these administrative development councils. So they have these autonomous legislative powers. Along with legislative powers, they also have the power to collect taxes, regulate trade and markets, and manage local resources, which means they have financial autonomy as well. They have legislative powers, they have financial autonomy, and they can establish courts for trial of certain cases, meaning they have judicial powers also. So they have everything, right? They have legislative powers, financial powers, judicial powers. That is the reason Ladakh has always wanted to be a part of the 6th schedule, but this 6th schedule was enacted specifically for northeastern states only. And this protects them from encroachment because they have the power to make laws on land use and forest management. Outsiders cannot go and purchase property, inherit land. So they are saving this, they are saving the local customs, the local people from encroachment. These are the benefits that any state would get in 6th schedule. Now, other than 6th schedule, there is also another important thing in the article, which is the 5th schedule. The 6th schedule and 5th schedule both are for tribal welfare only, but 6th schedule was enacted specifically for northeastern states, and 5th schedule is applicable to all the other states. All other states with tribal population. This is one major difference, and 6th schedule states enjoy more autonomy versus 5th schedule states work under a protective framework of the state government. Let us understand this. So this applies to all Indian states except those in Northeast. We're talking about the 5th schedule here. Administration and governance is through state governments and special mechanisms. So they are not that autonomous in their working like the 6th schedule. There are no separate autonomous councils. Instead, they have tribal advisory councils or TACs. They have tribal advisory councils set up to advise on tribal welfare. And the union government can give directions to state regarding administration of these regions, of these areas. So if you look at it, the 6th schedule has more autonomy. It is able to take care, it is able to make its own decisions on legislation, financial and judicial matters, versus the 5th schedule is under a protective framework of the state government, and the union government can also pass directions or make give directions to the state government to make laws in certain areas. The 5th schedule areas are not that autonomous in their working versus the 6th schedule. That is the reason Ladakh wants to be included in the 6th schedule. But again, 6th schedule was enacted only for northeastern states. This is the caveat here, and that is also one of the reasons that Ladakh is not being able to get the status of get the special status under the 6th schedule of the constitution. That is one of the reasons of centre's reluctance. As I mentioned, that time and again Ladakh has been demanding two things, right? Full statehood and inclusion in 6th schedule. Now, full statehood, if it gets the status of full state, what is going to happen? It is going to get its own legislative assembly. It is going to get its own legislative assembly. There will be a governor, but the governor is going to act on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Versus right now, since it is a union territory without a legislative assembly, it is directly under the control of the centre, under the control of LG, and LG is taking all the decisions. There is no Council of Ministers, there is no Chief Minister, so it is kind of directly governed by the centre. So centre can lose its autonomy here. So the reluctance is, number one, that the 6th schedule was constitutionally designed for the Northeast. So now if you want to make an exception for Ladakh, you will have to bring in constitutional amendment. So technically, you will have to amend the constitution under Article 368, and then this could be possible. Union territories are directly governed by the centre. Now Ladakh has a very strategic and security sensitivity. If you go back to the map, this is Ladakh. It is bordering China, Pakistan. So this is at a very strategic location. It is very important for from the security point of view of India. And that is also one of the reasons of centre's reluctance, that if it loses its autonomy or control from this region and sets up autonomous district councils, will it be able to implement its decision better in cases of security, in cases of national security? So this is also one of the reasons for centre's reluctance. Lack of legislative assembly in Ladakh. Again, the 6 scheduled states, the 4 northeastern states, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram, these states have a legislative assembly. So because these states have autonomous district councils, but they also have legislative assemblies. So the legislative assembly functions for all for the entire state, excluding the part which has most tribal population. So for the tribal population, you have autonomous district council, but for every other part of the state, you have the regular state government. Now, because Ladakh is not a state, or it is not a UT with a legislative assembly, you cannot really put it into the 6th schedule in the current setup, because it does not have a legislative assembly. Who is going to govern the other part of the UT, which is not exactly covered by tribals? This is also one area of contention here. And then there are concerns about political control and precedent. As I mentioned, that if you want to include Ladakh in the 6th schedule of the constitution, you will have to make a constitutional amendment. Now this will set up a precedent that the rule was exempted from Ladakh, and then similar voices could have been raised from other states of India also, which have an enormous tribal population, that we also want to be included in 6th schedule because you made an exception for Ladakh. So this could also set up a precedent, and this is also something that the centre is concerned about. Instead, what can be done? So what can really be done here is that you empower the LAHTCs with more financial and functional authority. What did the 6 schedule areas have? It had legislative powers, financial powers, judicial powers. So you give all these things, you could give all these things to Ladakh in the current setup. You can include, you can increase the financial autonomy of the region so that you don't really include it in 6th schedule, but at the same time, you can have all the benefits enjoyed by that area also. But again, all these decisions lie with the centre only. The center and the parliament only can make these decisions about what needs to be done and what does not. And an alternative constitutional framework would be adding Ladakh to Article 371. So what is Article 371? Article 371 gives special provisions to some states. Originally, it was it was incorporated for Maharashtra and Gujarat only, but then a lot of more states have also been added to it. And we can an alternative or a middle path here could be that you add Ladakh to Article 371. Again, constitutionally, a constitutional amendment will need to be passed here because 371 consists of states and not UTs. And Ladakh right now is a UT without a legislative assembly. But this is something that the center might consider as a way forward. It all depends on the discretion of the center. So that is all for today's video. What we learned so far was that there are new job guidelines, domicile guidelines that have been issued for Ladakh because Ladakh has a very indigenous tribal population. It has a high unemployment rate, and that is the reason we needed to get these guidelines into place. There are deeper demands for inclusion into 6th schedule and also a demand of full statehood, which again lies with the center. So the power lies with the center only. Doesn't lie with the judiciary, does not lie with the bureaucracy, it only lies with the center because the parliament can only amend the constitution. So including it in Article 371 could be a middle path. It could be potentially a middle path, but it also relies on the center. So that's all for today. Now let's practice one question for prelims and one for mains. Consider the following statements about the new domicile and reservation rules in Ladakh. 85% of government jobs are reserved for local residents. 1/3 of seats in LAHDCs are reserved for women. Domicile criteria include residing in Ladakh for at least 10 years. And the policy aims to promote local culture and identity. Which of the above statements are correct? 1 and 2 only, 1, 2 and 4 only, 1, 2 and 3 only, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So answer this question in the comments below and let us know if you were able to crack this. Practice question for mains is discuss the implications of center's new domicile and reservation rules for Ladakh. Evaluate their potential impact on local employment, governance and socio-economic development. Practice this question for mains in 250 words. That is all for today's video. Until we meet the next time, please keep studying and keep revising.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.